Hi, this is Hot Girls Build Cults, the show where we explore the art of gathering, the business of belonging, and the people creating communities worth showing up for. I'm your host, Megan Lycan, storyteller, community builder, and lifelong people connector. Each week, we talk to the people creating movements, spaces, and communities that make you say, I want in. And guess what? You're invited. Let's get into it. Awesome. Well, welcome to Hot Girls Build Cults. Today I'm sitting down with Gloria Knott, who is a Tucson native, journalist, and lover of the desert. She graduated from the University of Arizona School of Journalism in 2018 and spent the next 7 years working as a reporter, producer, and editor at the Arizona Daily Star. In October 2025, she founded Tucson Love Letter, a community-first publication that helps Tucsonans explore the magic of Tucson. That includes coverage about the people, places, and things that make Tucson special. She also organizes community events and takes a hands-on approach towards working with small businesses. Welcome, Gloria.
Woo! Thank you for having me.
Of course. I've been trying to get you to sit down with me for a while now, but you've been so busy building an empire.
I don't know if I'd say empire, but thank you. I appreciate it. I appreciate the sentiment.
Yeah, I mean, like, the growth has been insane. I remember, like, when I first encountered your profile, this would have been like back in like February, March, right around the 10 West time. And I had like on your bio, it says like started in 2025. And I was like, holy crap, like what a following in such a short amount of time.
Yeah. No, it's been crazy. Yeah. I mean, I am so grateful. And especially in this first year, I started October last year. So this year, the first year, I was just like, I want to build an audience. I want to make sure that people know this exists. And it's been amazing. It's been a really fun, crazy journey. And I'm very happy that it's reaching the right people.
Yeah. Absolutely. I think a really great place to start is just like, take us back to the beginning. Like, what inspired you to start Tucson Love Letter? And like, I don't know, like what gap did you feel like it was existing in Tucson at the time when you decided to create it?
Yeah. So I went to school at the U of A, graduated with a journalism degree, and started at the Arizona Daily Star. I did a number of roles there. I was there for 7 years total and had so much fun, learned so much. A lot of like my best friends today still work there, and I'm so incredibly grateful for my experience there. At the time, I mean, the journalism industry is very hard and it's really difficult to watch layoffs happen in your own newsroom, but also just industry wide. And that was something that I definitely saw. And it was hard for sure. And then I was kind of in a place where like I loved my job so much for the last 4 years of me being at the Star. I was the editor of This Is Tucson, which is the Star's sister site. And I loved it so much. But I was kind of craving more autonomy. I had a lot of things on my plate and wasn't able to do the things that I really loved as much anymore because I just had so much on my plate. I was just kind of craving more autonomy. Again, I'm so grateful for my time there and I learned so much, and I still read the Star, I still read This Is Tucson, and a big supporter, but it was just kind of my time. So I left last April, and it was also like it was partially for my mental health. I just really needed to take a break. And I'm very lucky that I had the opportunity to be able to do that. So I took a break. I listened to a lot of audiobooks and like did jigsaw puzzles and like painted and all of those things, just kind of relearning that rest is productive, really. And I knew that I wanted to stay in journalism. I had kind of an idea of what I wanted my next steps to look like, but didn't know exactly what that looked like. I knew that I wanted it to still involve the community because the community it's my favorite part about Tucson. I think the community here is so incredible. People here are so kind, and I knew that I wanted to do something that was very much community first. So I ended up sending out a survey to 80 different people in Tucson, sat down with some of them as well, and really just asked, what does the local media landscape need? What is your favorite thing about Tucson? What's your least favorite thing about Tucson? Just those kinds of questions to better understand what was needed, what people wanted, what would be helpful, so that I could kind of go forward, because I didn't want to create something that was already created. I didn't want to create something that nobody needed, or nobody
Right.
wanted. Like, I wanted to make sure that this, like, whatever I did next was something that the community actually like cared about and like would want and would be helpful. Yeah, so that kind of Tucson Love Letter was kind of the outcome of those responses. And it's really nice because a lot of those responses also lined up with things that were important to me. So it was like, for example, I am not a sports person, love people who love sports, but I'm not a sports person. So if people were like, we really need more like sports coverage, I would have been like, okay, like, I don't know what to do with this, right?
Like, that's nice,
But
but
yeah. So I'm glad that like people's responses lined up to what I felt was important as well. A lot of that was people wanted more stories about people helping people. People wanted more stories about mutual aid groups. People wanted more coverage on like just the community and people. And I was like, cool, because I love the people here. So I would love to be able to do that. And I love being able to talk to people who spend so much of their time and energy helping others and doing distributions in the park for people who are maybe unhoused or just need it. Yeah, so I was like, cool, like that's what I feel strongly about that too, so let's do it. And yeah, I wanted to create something too that was like approachable, something that like if I was a headphone just flew out of my ear. Something that I wanted to create something that, like, if I was visiting Tucson, I would see my Instagram page or my like website and be like, yes, this is like, I like this. I want to stay here. So I wanted it to be approachable. I wanted it to be casual. I wanted it to be like, like when I'm writing, I'm like talking to a friend. I wanted it to be like very just approachable and fun and playful. And yeah, I hope that comes through.
yeah, I feel like you very much have accomplished that. Like it's definitely
Thank
like
you.
very approachable, like branding and the way that you show up on social. And I
Yeah.
think it's really cool that you took the time. I'm a big researcher by heart, so I love that you like did some market research and you asked the people like, what do the people want?
No,
Yeah.
exactly. I feel
So I
like that. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that I wasn't doing something that wasn't needed. Like, what would be the point if I put all of this time and work and money into building something and then people were like, we don't need another thing like this, or this isn't helpful to me, or whatever. I wanted to make sure that like this was whatever I did next, that people needed it. And I think that like that's important. And I think even now, I want to always involve the community in those decisions. Like I started kind of figuring out advertising options, and I like put an ad in an Instagram post, and I posted on my story and said like, hey, is this ugly? Do you hate this? Like, what do you feel about this? Because it's like you're the one reading it, and I wouldn't be here without people reading these things. So I want to make sure that like you you aren't feeling like something is bad or interfering with your experience. So I feel like just having that conversation with community and continuing to have that conversation with community has been really important.
yeah, I think the community first approach is so cool and like really giving your audience an opportunity to engage and kind of help. They feel like they're almost kind of co-creating it with you a little
Yeah,
bit.
yeah, yeah, yeah. For sure. I think having that be an ongoing conversation is important. And I mean, as like the environment around us changes, people change. So just being, I think it's important. Something that I feel like I've learned a lot to do is be okay with change, be okay with like pivoting if I need to, because the way I do things now might not always work in the future because people's needs change, who people are change, the environment around us changes. So there's so many different variables that can change, and yeah, being okay with like pivoting, I think is really important for sure.
Yeah. I'm curious, have you had to pivot much so far or experienced anything you
Um,
really just like you set out to do something and you're like, okay, actually, I really need to rethink this?
Yeah, I mean, there's been definitely like small examples of that, I would say. Before I started, I knew that I wanted to highlight local events. And I like made this pretty little graphic of how I was going to share events on Instagram. And I think that I posted that one time, and then I don't know why, but I decided, you know what? I'm going to like show my face and do a reel of me explaining these local events. And that just like did very well with engagement. I don't know if it's because like technically speaking the algorithm was like that's a person, we like this, you know,
Right.
but it did really well, and that's something that I wasn't ever expecting. Like I have no problem you know, showing my face and being on camera, but it wasn't something that I anticipated would be a weekly thing. um so there's little things like that for sure where it's like, okay, well, like this is working. So I guess this is what I'm doing until it stops working. Um, yeah, so I feel like there's been little things like that. I've definitely, I think going into Tucson Love Letter, I kind of wrote down what I thought, you know, my business plan would look like, what my revenue streams would look like what that business model would kind of look like. And um I mean, I'm very early on in this journey, but I've definitely like pivoted a little bit on what that all looks like. Not a whole lot because I have mostly been focusing on audience in this first year versus revenue, but
Hmm.
um I feel like I had an idea of like, okay, this is how I'm going to make money, or this is how I'm going to do this thing. And now I'm kind of learning, maybe that's like not what I want to focus on as much. So there's definitely been little things, but I think for the most part, it's kind of like a day by day thing too. Like sometimes it'll be like, oh, I think this thing is going to do really well on Instagram, or people really care about this story or whatever. And then like it just doesn't resonate. And then there's the things that are like, oh, I don't know, I'm just going to post this random clip of the rain, and then it does like numbers, right? So like you
People are
never
just going
know.
ape shit for it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So sometimes it's always just a surprise. Sometimes it's just yeah, it's hard to predict, but um yeah, that's kind of also the fun of it, I think.
Yeah.
Trying to figure it out.
Yeah, if you're comfortable, if we can like dig into a little bit about like so I've seen that you're like very intentional about like sponsorships and like how you approach those and like how
Mhm.
like the exchange of goods, like that seems very intentional on your part. Can we talk a little bit about that or just like share with the audience like your
Yeah.
approach?
Yeah, of course. So, um I studied journalism for 4 years in high school or in college, and then I worked for 7 years at a legacy newspaper. So this is like very in journalism, most if not all like legacy papers or just like journalism organizations have an ethics policy in place. A lot of times those ethics policies will say you know, you can't accept free items, discounted items, money in exchange for coverage. So for example, if this hasn't happened, but I love Scented Leaf, if Scented Leaf were to say, hey, Gloria, will you write a story about Scented Leaf or make a reel about Scented Leaf in exchange for free Scented Leaf for life or like money or like whatever, right? My answer would be no. And that's something that has been ingrained in me since I started college and started studying journalism. And I think it's important. I think, there's people who are not journalists who don't operate with that same ethics policy, and that's totally fine. Like this is no, like, that's totally okay. That's just, I think, because I come from a journalism background, I kind of like think about things a little bit differently. But people who would say yes to that scented leaf proposal, like, get your bag, right? Like, it's
Yeah.
totally fine.
Yeah.
But for me, I just want to make sure that, I think it's really just about transparency for readers. I want to make sure that if I'm writing a story about scented leaf, people know I'm writing this story because it's an important story, or because I believe in it, or like whatever, and not that I'm writing it because I was paid to do so. So yeah, I mean, and it sometimes that's difficult, because if Scented Leaf were to call me up and say, "Do you want Scented Leaf for life?" Like, what a hard no that would be coming out of my
Right.
mouth. but yeah, I just think and I also think it's kind of multifaceted, because I am also writing stories hoping that people read them and support these local businesses, or support these nonprofits, community members, whatever. So I also want to support Scented Leaf. Like, if I'm going to write about Scented Leaf, I don't want you to give me a free thing. I want to support you. I want to pay out of pocket so that I am, like, supporting you financially. So yeah, that's that. Um, I think that's just something I knew when I started Tucson Love Letter that I wanted to carry into Tucson Love Letter. That's something that I've practiced my entire career, and something I knew that was important to me. And yeah, I just want to make sure that people know that my coverage is honest and genuine. And I mean, I don't post, I don't really post, I'm not posting like a food review or anything like that. So
Right.
it's
Yeah.
nothing like that. But I just want people to know that if I'm sharing something, it's because it's worth it, and not because I was like paid to do it. But yeah, and
Sure.
then that being said, like, I do offer ads, or I'm kind of looking more into that realm of things. But all of the ads, like, are not confused with coverage. Like, I'm not going to make a reel or write a story, but you might see something in an email newsletter or on my Instagram story or something that says, like, "Hello, this is an ad." Like, it's very clear this was paid for. This is an ad. This is not, coming from my mouth. Like, this is an ad. This is a paid position. And I want to make sure that's always, like, very obvious. So yeah, that, I mean, just making sure that, like, both things, like, I have my, like, coverage, my stories, my Instagram content, and then I have the ads, like, making sure that those are separate and that readers understand and are aware that those are separate is very important to me.
Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. And thank you for kind of like diving into that a little bit. I've
Yeah.
seen like, a big rise of like the local newsletter operator, like, against like traditional media, or like what they call like trad
Yeah.
media.
Right.
Um, and so, yeah, it's just really interesting to see your perspective. Like, you know, it almost seems like an identity thing as well, like whether you identify as like a journalist or a creator or, a newsletter operator or all three, like.
Right, right. That's definitely been interesting, because I do feel like I kind of tread the line between like content creator and journalist, because sometimes I'm not posting with like proper grammar. Sometimes I'm not, like, I think also because I aim to be approachable, and I aim to be, your friend, you see my face. Like, I want it to be like a friendly encounter online, like, "Oh, you're seeing Gloria. Okay, like, that's Gloria, right? Like, that's not like this publication, that's not this faceless byline in a newspaper, right?" So I do think that I often do kind of walk that line between the two. Or at least, like, at face value and like in the bigger picture, I walk that line. And then, I mean, you also see, like, if you go to the New York Times's website or the Washington Post or any kind of news organization that's writing harder topics about environment, border, just like very newsy topics in that way. Their websites kind of look not the same, but like they have the same vibe, right? Versus I think you come to my website or you come to my Instagram and it's like very pink, there's hearts, like it's this thing, right? And I think that that often isn't associated with a news outlet. And that was intentional. Um, but yeah, I think that sometimes the lines get a little blurred. And also I I have definitely like shared my personal opinions. Traditionally journalists um are supposed to be unbiased, and I ultimately am a human before I'm a journalist, so I do in fact have opinions. And right. And I think that it's really, Tucson Love Letter is not my entire identity, but it's a big chunk of who I am. And I am Tucson Love Letter. Like Tucson Love Letter is just me behind it. So if I have this platform to say something, or like share something that's important, even if it's maybe like definitely backed by my own thoughts and values, I'm going to do it. So that's also definitely different from your traditional journalist as well. And I'm open about that because, and I know that maybe that is confusing for people who are, longtime supporters of a newspaper or a more strict like news outlet. I know that can be confusing, so I always try to be honest that like if you don't see me as a journalist because I'm like resharing certain kinds of things, that's okay. Like you do not have to see me as a journalist. Ultimately it's like obviously we always like need labels for like things, but also I think just like if this is helping you, then I don't care if you see me as a journalist or a content creator or whatever. Like, I just want to help you. So, yeah, it's definitely like I definitely go between that line, and I think I get how it can be maybe confusing for people being like, is she a journalist? Is she a content creator? I get it.
Like,
Yeah.
why not both? No, that was
Right.
very, very,
Right. Right.
very beautifully explained. And I think like a really
Thank you.
great segue into like, at what point did you realize Tucson Love Letter like wasn't just about sharing stories, but like also shaping the community around it? And I mean, like you put on a lot of events and you collaborate on events with a lot of people. And I'm curious if that was
Yeah.
intentional from the start or it just kind of evolved as you started, publishing.
Yeah. I had hosted maybe 4 events prior to starting Tucson Love Letter. So it's something that I had experience in, and those events, most of them were a lot larger, like 100 plus vendors involved, like they were a lot larger scale than what I have been doing now. I knew coming into Tucson Love Letter that I wanted to do events. But I did not anticipate doing nearly as many as I have. That being said, a lot of the events that I have done are smaller scale. I've done this past weekend I did a charcoal workshop that was 10 people, so it's a lot tinier. Um, so I knew that I wanted to do events, one selfishly because I love planning and I love like logistics and I'm a very organized person. So it's fun for me to plan something and then see the community show up and like rally in support of vendors or an artist or like learning a new hobby or whatever the case is. So I knew that I wanted to do that for that reason, but also because I wanted to make I wanted to create a space for community to gather. um I don't think that I was, when I first started Tucson Love Letter, I don't think that I was thinking that Tucson Love Letter would exactly be the creator of third spaces as much as I thought Tucson Love Letter would be more of a connector to third spaces.
Mm-hmm.
But now, I mean, earlier in the month, I hosted with someone else, another organization, a Love Island finale watch party. and two pairs of people there were there on their first dates. Another person there, or two people, like I watched them, they came in as strangers, and I don't know, they happened to sit next to each other and they swapped Instagrams and started following each other on Instagram. So that's something that I like knew would have been amazing to happen, but like I didn't know that it would actually happen, I guess. So that was really, really fun. That's just, yeah, that's been like beyond my wildest dreams. I mean, people meeting someone and making connections at an event that I'm putting together is mind blowing to me. So I knew that I wanted to do something in the community that brought people together in person. But I really thought in the beginning that it would be maybe like a few times a year, certainly not every month. But it's been so fun, and yeah, I want to like keep doing it, and it's been fun being able to do so many different kinds of things too. Like the Love Island watch party, but then I did like with D Luna candles, I did a Harry Styles listening party and workshop, and there's been like crafting, and there's been markets, and there's been a clothing swap, you know, all different kinds of things, but all of which are things that I would love to go to as well. And I think it also does kind of start selfishly because I'm like, oh, wait, I want to go to a Love Island watch party. Or like,
Right.
oh, wait, I want to do a Harry Styles themed candle. You know what I mean? So it starts a little selfishly and then turns into something for everyone else, which is amazing. But yeah, I never I definitely like knew I wanted to do events, but didn't think that it would be to this level.
Yeah. I mean, it definitely sounds like there's a market for it and you found your niche. Like as we're kind of putting together Community Week Tucson, like I didn't realize there's like over 200 different social clubs and
It's
communities. And
amazing. Yeah,
it's so cool to witness. There's so many cool things happening in Tucson. And yeah, like your events specifically are like, they always look really fun. I
thank
need
you.
to get on it.
Yeah, no, it's so amazing seeing all of the third spaces and clubs and community spaces in Tucson. I don't know if I'm just maybe paying attention more now, or there's just a lot more than there used to be. I think people are really craving connection with others. And it's so nice to be able to, yeah, meet someone who shares the same interests as you, who, you know, like there's so many different things. There's, you know, open music jam sessions, and there's crafting clubs, and there's sporting leagues, and like there's just so much. And yeah, it's like I feel like we're very lucky to be able to be surrounded by so many community leaders who are taking it upon themselves to create these spaces for people, because obviously not everyone has the ability to be able to cultivate something like that, but I think a lot of people want that and need that. So I'm really happy that
Yeah.
Tucson, like that's a thing.
I've been blown away because I'm not originally from Tucson.
Oh,
And
okay.
so for a while I was like, is there anything going on here? Like,
Yeah,
and it's like what they say, like if if it doesn't exist, build it. But then like as I was starting
for
to build
sure.
something, I'm like, wow, it is here. Now we just need to help connect the
Yeah,
people in the communities.
yeah, no, for sure. And it's so funny because I am a Tucson native. I've lived here my entire life. But I mean, I think it was also definitely like teen angst of me being like, there's nothing to do here. And like, I want to be by the beach. And you know what I mean? So, I definitely didn't see the beauty in Tucson until I was an adult and going to college and doing internships where I was assigned stories about Tucson events or Tucson restaurants. That's when I was finally like, oh, wait, this place is kind of cool. But like initially, I was like, oh my God, get me out of here. I need to be by the beach. I need somewhere greener. Like, I definitely neglected Tucson and like very severely underappreciated Tucson. And now, obviously, like it's the absolute opposite. And I want to like scold my younger self.
Yeah. Well, and then, but like, I mean, your role is like help spotlighting like all
Yeah.
the cool activities and events and restaurants and spaces that Tucson has to offer that like,
Yeah.
yeah, we didn't know about before.
And even, I mean, I feel like I know a lot of things in Tucson, but I certainly do not know everything. Like all the time, I will discover a new thing or try a new restaurant for the first time, or like someone will message me and be like, I have been running this club for 20 years and I had no idea that it existed, you know? So, um, like there's definitely things that I have no idea exist, and I'm happy that I'm able to share the things that I do know exist. But even as long as I've lived here and as much knowledge as I do have, there's new things all the time. And like even like just new things popping up all the time, new clubs forming, new restaurants opening, new stores opening, all of that, like all of that is it's a changing thing. So I always think someone once asked me, do you think you'll ever run out of story ideas? But no, like there's no way. Like there's always going to be something, whether it's new or something that's been in Tucson for a long time. Like I'm never going to run out of story ideas.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And even if, I mean, technically, even if you did, there's like people coming in all the time. So it's new to
Right.
them, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Like even if I wrote something a decade ago or whatever, however long ago, someone who just moved here yesterday did not see that story from a decade ago. So yeah, it's definitely a there's just always stuff to share and so
Yeah.
many worthy people, places, things to share.
Yeah. I know that you said that you're a Tucson native, but like you've
Hmm.
also kind of had the front row seat to Tucson's growth. What do you think makes
Sorry.
Tucson? You're good.
Okay. Um,
No, but what I was gonna say is, so what do you think makes Tucson's like community culture unique compared to other cities?
I think honestly, I have talked to so many people for stories and just people in general. And so many people who have moved here from other places always mention how kind the community is and how Oop, there's a cat.
Oh, hello. There's a cat.
And how nice the community is and just how nice the people are. I've obviously never lived anywhere else, but people just seem to think that the community here is very different than other cities. Um, and I mean, even though I haven't lived anywhere else, I mean, I agree. Like, I think the people here are so nice. And just kind. And whenever I see an artist or a local business owner or whoever asking for support from the community answers. The community rallies in support of that person every single time, whether that's financially or otherwise. And I think that's a really beautiful thing. Something that I always think about too is I was at a market one year and it was really, really windy. I wasn't vending, but I was there shopping. It was super windy. And one of, I think, I think someone's display like I think they made earrings or something, everything like flew over in the wind, and people like stopped what they were doing, helped pick up everything, were holding down tents, you know. And it's just like that was a very I don't know, a very good example of like the community will help even when they're not expected to.
Yeah.
um and I think, yeah, that's a beautiful thing. I feel like that maybe sets Tucson apart from other places for sure. I mean, obviously, like obvious answers too are like the food is amazing here, and I think, you know, we have it's a dry heat here. Like
We love a dry
it's
heat.
not, except right now. I guess it's like still kind of humid and kind of muggy and gross outside. But yeah, I would say definitely the community sets Tucson apart. I also hear from artists a lot of how, and just local business owners in general, how collaborative their pockets of community are. A lot of like I've seen people who make the same type of item, let's say earrings, for example. They make the same type of item, but they're friends, and they, you know, one person will be like, hey, I ran out of this item. Do you have this thing? And it's very much like collaboration over competition, which is really amazing. I interviewed the owner of Kingfisher for a story a few months ago, and it seemed to be the same thing in the restaurant industry where she was like, if we run out of gloves, like I can go down the street and ask a different restaurant if they have gloves to share, you know? So I feel like that's a really amazing thing that people are not competing in that way.
Yeah, it's
I
not
think
common.
no, yeah, I mean, again, yeah, I haven't like lived in Tucson, or I have lived in Tucson my whole life. I haven't lived anywhere else, so I haven't seen firsthand those experiences that other people have had in other cities, but yeah, from what people say, it's always like, yeah, no, it's just everyone's just nice here, and I think that's a
Yeah.
really wonderful thing.
It definitely caught me by surprise. So, like I said, I'm not from
Mhm.
Tucson, but I've lived in a couple other different cities, and the biggest takeaway I've had is like collaboration over competition, and it's
Yeah.
incredible. It's almost like at first I was like a little bit like suspicious of it. I'm like, what's happening?
Right,
Why are you
right,
being so
right.
nice? Like, what's the catch here? And it's like there is
Yeah.
no catch. Like they're literally like my sister lived in Chicago for 13 years, and
Mhm.
though she was like a theater, she was in theater and like improv, but she also teaches yoga, and she was never able to like secure a yoga job in Chicago. But within like the first 2 months of living in Tucson, she has like two like yoga studios that invited her to teach, and
Oh
like
my
similar to
gosh. Yeah.
like when I just how quickly like community week has come together. I was just it's
Yeah.
because people are like, how can I help? It's not like they're not
Yes,
rushing to be like,
yes.
oh, like, to beat you at being the first at something. They're like, no, like let's do this
Yeah.
together. So it's
Yeah.
really cool. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, I posted a video a couple days ago asking for support, just saying I needed some help, and um people, even if they couldn't support financially, people support in so many other ways. People just giving suggestions of like, oh, have you tried to do this thing, or like, I know about this grant, or like, I can't support financially but I make jewelry and I would be happy to donate, you know what I mean? So it's like, it's so nice. People don't have to do that, you know, like
Yeah.
they don't there's no, they don't have to do that, and they often are not, you know, expecting anything in return. And people often like help anonymously too. And yeah, it's a really beautiful thing. And I feel very lucky to live in a city that's like that. Um, yeah, and I mean, I of course I like travel and, you know, love visiting other cities, and but I just constantly am like, okay, I'm ready to go back to Tucson now. Like, so yeah, I'm very lucky that we live in Tucson for so many different reasons, but especially the community.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess to go back to, some of the events and community
Yeah.
community events that you've been doing. What would you say is like one of your favorite events that you've put on so far, and like what made it so
Hmm.
special?
I think there's 3 of them that are at the top of the list for me. The first one, I hosted a clothing swap in April. People donated clothing, um, just clothing that they no longer wore, and I hosted a clothing swap at Tucson Hop Shop, put out all the clothing, everything was free. Like, I was not tracking if you, like, brought clothes, or, like, being like, "Oh, you only brought 2 shirts, you can only take," you know what I mean? Like, it would just take. And since it was in a public space at Tucson Hop Shop, there were people who walked into Tucson Hop Shop to get a drink or to hang out or whatever, not there for the clothing swap. And they walked out not knowing a clothing swap was happening. And this happened with multiple people, them being like, "Hey, what's going on?" And me being like, "Oh, it's a clothing swap. Like, feel free to take stuff. It's free." And they were so baffled because I think we like the idea of something being like entirely free is very foreign, right? It's a very foreign concept. Like, how often do you just get free things? And they were very baffled, and they're like, "Are you sure?" I'm like, "Yes, 100% take it." Um, and it was a very it was really nice because people got to clean out their closets. They got to take home new to them items. It's helping, you know, like just environmentally, like sustainability. And then also at the end, I was able to donate a lot of the remaining clothes to mutual aid groups. So it was very helpful for everyone. It was just like this big giant circle, which I really loved. And then in May, I worked with Somos Tucson, which is a Spanish language news publication. Um, the owner or the founder, Liliana, is amazing, and she had an idea of hosting a festival that celebrates Latino culture. And I've hosted a number of markets in the past, but this one felt so different. We shut down a portion of a street, like a small portion of the street in South Tucson. And it was a night event. We had some vendors, we had food trucks, we had live music, we had free loteria for people. And it was so fun. It felt so casual. It felt like a neighborhood block party. It felt like, people just walked out of their houses to hang out with their neighbors, to talk, to mingle. There was no pressure to buy anything from the vendors. People did, but like you could go and not feel that pressure. Like, obviously, there's never really pressure if you're going to a market to like shop from a person, but this just felt different.
Mm-hmm.
And it was really nice. Like people just sat and listened to music and like ate, played some loteria. And it was really amazing. And that was just, yeah, that was a really fun one. And then I'd say one of my most recent ones was in June. I hosted a celebration of monsoon with vendors and some free activities for people. And that was my first larger event. I mean, it was still fairly small compared to what I had done prior to Tucson Love Letter, but it was my first larger event that I did on my own. And it was so much fun. And just, I it's so funny because I did it at the Coalition Space, and if you're familiar with the Coalition Space, there is a patio area, and I had some vendors out there, but when I was mapping it, I was like, "Ah, I don't know, like I feel like it's gonna look too empty. Like I don't feel like I got enough vendors. It's gonna look too like spaced out and weird." And I was panicking a little bit. But then as I was actually setting it up, I put a bunch of like tables for people to eat and just hang out, do crafts, whatever. And all of the chairs and tables were filled with people just mingling and staying, hanging out a while. And it's just funny because I was like so panicked that it was not like that it looked too bare. And I was wrong. So yeah, that one was a really good one. I just, yeah, want to create spaces where people can hang out, do something for free, something that's low pressure, and obviously like support a local business if you have the means to. But if you don't, like do a free craft, like hang out and talk to people. And yeah, I'm glad that came through with all of those events.
Yeah. I'm noticing like a pattern like with like some of your events. Like I mean, it's like stuff that you do with your friends, like clothing swaps or like
Yeah,
come over and like
right.
watch Love Island and like got like and
Yeah.
just craft or like have a good time,
Yeah.
like a neighborhood party. And I feel like not only does your like web presence like is very open and inviting, but like the events you put on yourself is like very like it's easy to feel like you belong immediately and like find your people, which is super cool.
Yeah, I hope that comes through for sure. So thank you for saying that. Yeah, I definitely want to create a space where you can support local businesses and local artists. And you should do that. But I also am aware that people don't always have the means to do that. I mean, there's been many times where I'm like, oh my God, I would love to buy this thing at Made in Tucson or at like whatever market. And I like can't, right? And that sucks. Like that sucks. But so I just want to make sure that at most, if not all of my events, that there is some kind of free element for people so that you can just sit down and decorate a picture frame for free or like make a free bookmark or whatever. And I just think, yeah, that is a very intentional thing where like I want to make sure that this is inclusive and accessible for everybody. Yes, you can go to a market for free and not pay, a ticket cost, but I want you to be able to do something if you don't have the means to shop from any of the local vendors. Um, I just want you to be able to hang out like you're with a friend, and yeah, go look for clothing and go watch Love Island, listen to Harry Styles, like all of those things. I think that and some of those are a little maybe more niche, like not everyone likes Harry Styles. But for the people that do, like that's a really special thing for them. Like it's a really special event that they can go and like meet other Harry Styles fans. So um yeah, I do hope that comes through in the events.
It definitely does.
Good. Thank you.
Yeah. As we kind of wrap things up, I'm
Yeah.
curious, like, is there a next chapter for Tucson Love Letter that feels like exciting or ambitious or maybe even a little scary?
You know, I definitely want to continue doing Tucson Love Letter for a really, really, really long time. And that includes writing stories and hosting events and just connecting with my community on whatever level that looks like. So I hope to do this for a very long time. Um, I think the scary part of it is always like the more businessy, like finance side of things. Um, I hate the idea that like I always want to keep things accessible for people, but which is always hard because I mean um
You got to feed
I'm
yourself,
very
my gal.
right, exactly. Like I'm very lucky that I have a partner who, for now can keep a roof over my head, right? And like pay those bills, but that's not super sustainable. Like he's not making six figures. He one day we would like to buy a house, and that's not possible on his one income. So um yeah, it's not like that won't be a forever thing. And I do have to make sure that like Tucson Love Letter is financially sustainable. And I always think it's really important to make sure that you are like, and everybody should always make sure that they're like valuing themselves. Um, Especially like monetarily. Like I always want, people should always ask for a raise and like all of those
Right.
things,
It's
right?
like charge your
So
worth, all
right,
that good stuff.
exactly. So I have to remember that about myself as well. So I think that's maybe the scariest part, just because I don't ever want to um I don't want anything to become inaccessible. So it's just trying to figure out that balance of like, okay, what can I make accessible? Like, how do I make money from this? But like, I also don't want to like profit off of community by any means. So just trying to kind of figure out that a little more, and I'm grateful that I have like the time and space to be able to do that, and a community that I can ask for feedback so that if I'm doing something that is like people just don't vibe with, like I can ask and kind of change course. But yeah, I feel like that's maybe like the scariest thing right now, but ultimately like I just want to keep doing what I've been doing and, reach as many people as I can and connect with as many people as I can, tell as many stories as I can. I love talking to people and hearing their stories, and sharing them with the rest of the community. So I want to definitely keep doing that. And yeah, hopefully Tucson Love Letter is lasts for a really, really, really long time.
Yeah. Well, I have a really good feeling that the people will support you. People want to have you
Yes,
around.
for sure.
So,
Yeah, and I'm very grateful. I on Sunday I posted asking for help, and a lot of people rallied in support of Tucson Love Letter, and I'm incredibly grateful for that, and incredibly grateful for yes, of course, for like financial donations and contributions, but even beyond that, like sharing a story that I wrote, reading the story that I wrote, all of that matters too. So I'm very, very grateful. I could not, like, I obviously couldn't do this without the community. Like, I couldn't do this without people actually caring about the stories I'm writing or like looking at my Instagram, So I'm very, very grateful and like very much aware that like I could not do this without the Tucson community. So yeah, I will literally never stop being grateful. Like truly.
yeah. I guess, and then my last question is, for anyone who's interested in starting a newsletter or a local community, what's the biggest piece of advice would you give to them?
Yeah. Okay. Talk to your community members first. I feel like it's always important to like have that conversation with people. Don't assume what people need because you could be very wrong, you could be very right. But like talk to people, have those conversations first. I'm just one person, and yes, I represent Tucson. Yes, I am a community member, but I am only one person. You and I probably have different feelings about things. We both have different perspectives on things. You have a different lived experience than I do. So I just think that it's very important to talk to people and understand, their thoughts on like whatever your venture might look like, so that you can better understand your community's needs. I think that's very, very important. And to continue to keep that in mind too. Like, yes, it's important to incorporate community when building a business or an organization, a third space, whatever. But like continuing to incorporate the community is important, because like I said earlier, like people change. And so continuing to like shape what you're doing to fit the community, I think is really important.
How can people connect with you?
Yeah, so Tucson Love Letter is TucsonLoveLetter.com. I'm on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok, also Tucson Love Letter. I have, like, if you ever want to submit an event or a story idea, I have a link on my website to do that. I have a database of third spaces on my website too. So if you have a third space, like there's a button for that as well that you can submit to. I have an email newsletter if you're someone who likes getting things to your inbox. That's an option too. But yeah, TucsonLoveLetter.com.
Love it. You truly are the hub for all things Tucson.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Gloria.
I try. Yeah, thank you so much.
Perfect. If this conversation lit something up in you, this is your sign. Share the episode, start the conversation, build the thing. And if you're creating community, hosting gatherings, or building spaces people actually care about, I want to meet you. I'm Megan Lycan, and this is Hot Girls Build Cults.